are in episode 5 of Navigating Shitstorms, which is also, weirdly, a book that you wrote. That was long. I was thinking, sometimes I call you Elizabeth, like if I'm having a silly moment, and I was wondering, does that bother you? Because some people, like, names are important, and you're Liz Long.
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me. I am Elizabeth. I'm Elizabeth Ann with an E. And I was Elizabeth all the way until grade 9. When I made the switch to high school, then I became Liz. It was a new identity.
Ah,
And Elizabeth is a lot. I mean, it's a mouthful. It's 4 syllables and it's
mhm.
tough for people. So, but nobody calls me Elizabeth
Nobody.
anymore.
So if I
But
say,
no, it's fine.
Elizabeth,
I don't mind it. It's just
yeah,
not what I'm used to hearing anymore.
right, right. Oh, isn't that
Yeah.
nice? So a couple episodes ago, after we finished filming, you had mentioned that we were talking about the place or something like that, and you had said, "Oh, I talked to somebody from the place," and I'm like, "Oh, like what was it? Was it a follow up?" And you're like, "Well, I can't tell you. We'll save it for filming," which I think is going to be the story of our life together. Is I don't get to talk about any good stuff outside of filming because we can just like tape it.
We got to save it, save the impact.
Save it.
Yes,
Yeah, because
yes.
like you left the place and then I don't even really know what you did at the place. Like it's not, you weren't detoxing off something. I don't think it wasn't like a drug rehab, and I don't even know what kind of place it was. So I don't know where you want to go with it, and I don't know how much you want to share, but
Well, I think that it may be the topic of book number 2. Truthfully,
oh,
so many readers are expressing that they want more about the place. What's it like to check yourself in? What's it like to be there? And I think that there's lots of shit went down at the place. And it was a very interesting experience. And thankfully, I kept journals and notes. My memory sucks, so I'm grateful that I do have those to go back and reflect on. And it was a recovery center. It
just
was
a
this,
second. I
yeah.
think you're hitting a table or something because your camera's like got a little bit of a shake to it. So just FYI.
Okay,
Keep
thank you.
keep still, please.
Okay,
Don't move.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Keep it still. And I don't know how to edit that out. So carry on, listeners.
It doesn't matter. We'll have that plus your friend from the other episode walking in without realizing we were filming.
Well, hey,
To her horror.
that's real life. It's real
And you
life.
didn't even warn her. I'm like, by the
I
way,
know.
friend, we're filming. And you're like, oh yeah, she's fine. She's
I know. She's
covered
like,
up.
afterwards, she says to me, fuck, I was in my pajamas. That wasn't really fair. And I was like, oh, well,
It's
if you're
navigating
walking
shitstorms.
around,
You just walked
that's
into it.
fair game. Yeah. So the place was a mental health facility. It was a recovery center. It was very unique in that this place was small. It can only accommodate 12 guests. And when I was there, I was number 9 when I arrived, and a couple weeks later, one left. So the majority of my stay, we were only 8 people
Wow.
there
So
in
that's
therapy.
an intimate setting for
Yeah,
people just figuring shit out. And that's
absolutely.
tough. That's a lot
Yes.
of different energy and feelings and emotions floating around, I would
Yes.
think.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And a lot of it was, the majority of it, probably 90% of it was group work, group therapy, group everything. But the people there were, every one of us there for different, for different reasons, experiencing different symptoms. And there were people there with substance abuse issues of every single kind. There were people there with depression. There were people there that were suffering from PTSD. There was somebody there that actually was a spiritual medium and not understanding what was going on. There was a variety of reasons, and this particular place doesn't label or treat based on diagnosis. They have a foundational mental health program that has been developed by the owner, who's freaking brilliant. And it's applicable no matter what symptoms people are challenged with their mental health.
Okay.
The foundational program applies to all. So, so that's, yeah. And it's a 6-week program, and it can be every single week is a standalone module. So it doesn't matter when people show up or when they leave, you know, you do the 6 modules, and then, and then you're done. So.
Did you feel done at the end of that?
No, I did not. And my program was actually shortened a little bit because of the timing and Christmas. So I was the last person to leave the place, and I left there on December 22nd or 23rd. So I didn't have the full 6 weeks. I had like 5 weeks, and I went to a stage 2 place that they had nearby, and for another 2 weeks, and continued with my same therapist on an outpatient basis. And then I traveled back home. Yeah. But I don't name the place. I haven't named the place for a number of reasons. I hadn't talked to the owner, and so I didn't want to overstep or breach any of the confidentiality contract that I signed. That I have no recollection of what's in it, but I'm sure it was pretty tight.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get myself in trouble.
Yeah.
I wanted to do I wanted to act in integrity, and yeah, so I refer to it as the place.
Mhm.
It's a place in Canada, and it was one, I mean, I made the decision inside of 24 hours. It was super quick, and my decision to pick this place over other places that I looked at was in large part based on the COVID regulations at the time, because I went in November of 20, and things were still very seriously locked down.
Yeah.
And the mask things were a big thing at most of the recovery centers, the inpatient treatment centers. The guests, if you want to call them that, were required to wear a mask whenever they were out of the room, you know, which is pretty much the whole day. And I desperately didn't want to make a mask or wear a mask. So because of the small group number, the province that I was in had a regulation that we would be considered a family. And so as guests, we didn't have to wear a mask at all. Right. Now the staff all did.
So the staff's coming in and out, but you're static in the place. You're not going to the grocery store even, are you really? Or just for the most part?
Not in the first couple of weeks, but we did have some field trips. We had some field trips on the short bus. We did go out into the world. They took us out.
Say that in 2023.
Right? We didn't have to hold a room together, but we made lots of jokes about it. We did go out. We went out for some art therapy classes, to do pottery. We went out for some nature treks, although the grounds where we stayed had beautiful forests, and
nice.
We were allowed to go out and walk in the forests, not typically at the beginning, not by ourselves. But we were, you know, we did have nature that we had access to where we were staying. It was beautiful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So after you left the 2-week stint, the phase 2, then you came home, and did you hire your coach then? Or like, were you still doing like Zoom outpatient with your therapist? How did you transition? Because I'm assuming eventually you transitioned.
Yeah, of course. And that is the ultimate goal, right? So it was a transition, a weaning, whatever you want to call it. I stayed with my same therapist from the place for monthly Zoom counseling therapy sessions for a year. So I did one of those a month for a year. And it was I'd been home for a couple months when I hired that soul coach.
Right.
And I worked with her for a couple months, 2 or 3 months, I think.
Nice.
Yes.
And so then recently you've had a chat with somebody from the place, but I don't know who. Do you want to chat about it? Can you tell me about it? Or it's none of my business?
Yeah. No,
I'll just ask anyway.
Yes, of course I can. So I sent my book out to a lot of different people and to a lot of places. And of course I sent it to the owner of the place where I went. And that's who I connected with recently by Zoom.
Oh.
So she shared with me that the book is now there and that several other residents have read it and have felt that has been extremely helpful for them. And that was really super reassuring and encouraging, because that is my ultimate goal, is that this book will make a difference and will help people with their own mental health and whatever shitstorms they've had to navigate and are still unpacking and processing, or ultimately whatever new ones they have to face, because we can't ever stop shit from happening.
Right. Yeah.
And so she also has opened other facilities across Canada, and she's going to buy cases of my book for those other locations. Which
Oh,
is
that's so
awesome.
nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
And though I think that other guests that are at the place will feel such, I don't know, kinship with you, because they're at the same place too. They made the
Right.
same decision you're making, and like you're showing them, like, look what I did since I've left the place. Like
Yeah.
I'm figuring stuff out. I'm unpacking things. I'm changing beliefs. I'm moving forward. I'm serving other people with my story so that they can unlock themselves as well, right? Like, how
Absolutely.
beautiful is all of that?
Yeah, I mean, any reader or listener can benefit from the concepts and reading about my experiences, but certainly somebody who has gone through that same 6-week program that I have, and it's probably morphed and improved a little bit since I was there. And I think though that the basics of that are still very much the same. I mean, it's just a fantastic program that works. And so the biggest thing that we came about, there were several things we talked about, but one was the revealing of the name of the place.
Right.
Where is it and what is it really? And so, of course, I felt that it was essential for her to be in agreement with that. And she is. So we are going to be revealing.
When?
I'm not sure yet. She's put me in touch with her marketing person. They want me to film an episode on their YouTube channel and talk about my experience there. And I'm going to do some video endorsements. And so I think that it'll all kind of get planned out around that.
Nice.
Yes. Yes.
That's so nice.
So that's
I
great.
love
I mean,
that.
it communicates to me that she's and I know she is. She's very proud of my journey and my success. And I'm extraordinarily grateful. I said to her, it got teary at one point. I said, the place saved my life. And the program that she herself developed, which is unique. And it's a privately held business. And as far as treatment centers go in Canada, it may be the only inpatient, that's not true. I think there's one here on the Sunshine Coast that I believe is also privately held, but it would certainly be one of the largest privately held. The majority of them are corporate owned, and with a different agenda, with a board of directors to have to answer to, and with a focus and a measurable outcome of profits and headcounts, as opposed to individual programming and success stories. So, I know she doesn't have nearly the same profits as the other companies do, but I also know that she has an extraordinarily high rate of success of the people that go through her program. And that focus feels aligned to my value system as well.
Yeah. So
I'm happy to do anything
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody? I'm just thinking, okay, this is probably pretty expensive. Say somebody's watching this episode and going like, oh, I'm at the end of my rope. I can't afford even that.
Yeah.
Get your book and like, oh, that's really going to be helpful, Liz. You're just,
for sure,
you're just going to have that, right? And listen, I'm not asking from a place of judgment, because Yeah, I'm thinking like, I feel like I'm sounding a little judgy, like, well, nice, you can afford it. But what would you
Well,
say to somebody that can't do that or doesn't have that resource? W- Yeah.
yeah, so it was very expensive. And for me, I was in a fortunate position, but not an easy position. I cashed in RSPs. I didn't have the money to do that. I
So you
cashed
gave
in
up sort of like
RSPs,
a perceived security for the future that you had. You gave that up to invest in
100%,
yourself right now. Because you're like, well, there
100%.
might not even be a future for me to go get there, right? You were suicidal. So what did
Yeah,
it matter if you had that money and you didn't want to spend that money?
exactly. Exactly.
Sorry,
So
this is not I know this is none of my business, but I just want
no,
to get
no, no,
to like
you
what
absolutely nailed it.
yeah.
It was life or death for me. And I think that anybody who gets to that point, even if they're not contemplating suicide, if they're so racked with anxiety and depression and unhappy and just full of despair, that that's no quality of life. So
Mhm.
even if it's not life or death, it's quality of life. And money doesn't provide quality of life. And so I would encourage people to uh, ask whoever they know, ask for help, ask for money to cash in whatever you can, to sell whatever you can. Like there's nothing more important than our health, and our mental health
Mm.
is something we have oftentimes a little bit more control over than our physical health, although there's lots of arguments to that, and they're not going to get into that. But um and also, I would say the place that I went, the owner recognizes this, and she's filling a niche market. At the same time, she allocates a very high percentage of the spots available for free
Wow.
for people in need in the communities and outside of the areas where her facilities are located, who cannot afford to go. Far more so than any other corporations that I've ever heard of as a percentage, you know?
And can she do that partly because she charges what she charges, and so she's allocating some of that money almost as a
Yes and no. I mean, her profits are not stellar to begin with. You
oh,
know, she does it because that's the kind of person she is, and that's
mm,
the the wanting to support the people that can't afford to be there
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So, you know, and I can't speak on her behalf, and I don't have the details, or I don't know how it's determined, or any of those things. But I do know that um, that she allocates a lot for people for free, and they also provide free outpatient counseling as
Wow.
well.
Wow.
A lot more free than our government does.
Right.
Honestly, she should run our country.
Yeah, not a fan of Ontario's mental health system either, but
Well,
I am
it's tough everywhere.
I'm a believer. Tell me if you agree, and if you don't agree, that's okay. I'm a believer that you will get the right help at the right time when you're ready for it. So when I
Yes.
kind of came to the end of myself, the universe had sort of set up a series of events over the course of that year that led me right into the hiring of my coach, which at the moment that I needed him, I just
Yep.
knew it was the right decision. I just knew he was the perfect person. I had already had a complimentary session with him. I'd already had a workshop with him. He'd already been in somebody else's life that I know for a year. And so I kind of like felt like I had vetted him, and like he was going to be the perfect person for me.
Yeah.
And I eventually saw it as an investment in myself. I think I said this
Hmm.
before. I saw it as an investment in myself and not as an expense. And I had to get so bad that I was willing to part with the money. You and I, unfortunately, we had an off-camera chat about money, because I have had a lack focus, lack consciousness sort of about money, a shortage consciousness. Like there's never enough. You have to keep what you have. And you have had this beautiful relationship with money where you let it flow through you and you let it come and go, kind of like the water. And so one of my biggest lessons for me at the time was, this is an investment. This is an investment in me, because if I don't invest
Yep.
in me right now with this money, I will be dead. didn't really want to kill myself. I just wanted to just sleep forever and not have to
Yeah.
be alive, which is weird. I didn't want to die, but I just didn't want to be alive either. I just wanted to not exist, you know?
I get it. I get it. And yeah, all of our relationship with money has been so interesting. And I've had times where I've really struggled. I've been there at the grocery store where, you know, you're emptying your cart onto the belt and you're separating stuff because it's the stuff that that you can put back if you don't have enough money to pay, and you're asking for subtotals when you're checking out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also had some very affluent years in real estate where I made some really great money that, you know, was beyond what I ever thought I would make in a year, and everything in between, But we have a choice about how we think about things. And I love the way that you phrased an investment in ourselves. If we choose to attach that meaning to it, then, and value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it makes it a little easier. And I believe that money is meant to flow through us, that there's always enough available for what is in my best interest,
Mm-hmm.
and what my experiences are meant to be at that time, right?
And when you
So
choose to let money go, what is your thought process? Is it like, oh no, I hope there's enough? Is it love focused? Like, what is?
yeah, I don't know, not never, I shouldn't say that. I very rarely anymore focus on the lack. And people might be surprised if they saw my bank account, why I'm not focused more on the lack.
Which I appreciate. I appreciate you
Right?
even saying that, right? Because you're in a state of trusting with money.
Yes,
Like that's a lesson that you've learned, and you have a belief about that. And your belief is being shown to you. If I let it go, it will come back. That ebb and
yes,
flow, the tide, you know.
yes. I'm not attached to it.
Right.
I'm not attached to it in the way that I used to be at one time. And so I'm intentional about where my money flows, and the things that are important to me are experiences, mainly places I want to go and things I want to do, as opposed to things that I want to have or buy. Although there are some things that I enjoy to have and buy that cost money. Um, but not but. And when I'm parting with larger amounts of money, actually any amount of money, I like to infuse it with love, and as I give it graciously and without attachment to the outcome or the expectation as much, for the reciprocity or what that person will then do with that money. If that's, it's none of my business, you know, or where the next money that's going to arrive for me will come from.
Right.
You know, I mean, I didn't expect it. I get paid $120 for nude modeling. And, you know, not
Yeah.
that that's a deal breaker
But money came to you. It still
but,
flowed
you
to
know,
you,
it was
right?
like,
Like you're open
oh,
and there it
well,
is.
thank you. Thank you
Right.
very much for that. You know, that's awesome. And, you know, that flows. We went out for dinner that night, and when we came out, there was a person standing on the corner with a sign, you know, and my dad's always, stop the car, stop the car. And, you know, a good chunk of that literally went out the window.
Oh, I love that. You're
So
called to it. That's so lovely. That's
yeah.
awesome. Wow. Okay.
Anyways, the
That's
place was
amazing.
super interesting, and her program is amazing, and I'm excited to be a spokesperson for the place.
Well, I look forward to the unveiling, because once you film with them, then hopefully we can film and
Yeah,
talk about it a little bit more deeply.
we
So I
will.
think we're going to be finishing up now. But next time, what I want to talk about, I'm going to actually give you a warning. I want to talk about getting into your book a bit more, navigating shitstorms. I want to talk about the analogy. I mean, it basically is a big chunk of your book is Freedomville, Victimtown versus Freedomville. Am I saying that right? Victimtown
Yep.
versus Freedomville. And I want to know what I'm going to be looking for is how did you come up with the metaphor? How did it unfold? I had such a good conversation with your best friend, Debbie, Deb, she's not Debbie to me, Deb, about when she came up with one of her analogies. She was just drying her hair. And I just love these stories of, you're doing something seemingly mindless, but then you're allowing the ideas to come in and the inspirations to come. So I look forward to chatting with you about that. But before you go, I need to ask you some questions, of course.
Right.
Yeah. So let's start with the first one. Do you have any phobias or fears?
Oh, I still have I still have fears of what people are going to think of me, or so I think we all will always have that voice in our head. You're going to sound stupid. That's what are people going to think? It's a far, far less than it ever used to be, and it's not holding me back. No, there's very little that I'm afraid of anymore.
Nice. Liz, don't give a
Yeah.
shit. Liz, don't give
Right?
a shit.
Yeah.
Well, you
Getting
you
there.
care, but you don't care, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
do you think that that's come because of the healing that you've done, or with age, or because you're getting older, you've had time to do the healing?
Yes. Yes, they're
Just everything.
those things are all wrapped up together, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to boil it down, I think it's because I finally love myself. And
Yeah.
when we love ourselves and we're not dependent on what other people think or say or do, or circumstances or anything else. I mean, we come into this world by ourselves, and we ultimately only ever have ourselves. And if we lose everything and everyone and are just left with ourselves, if we're okay with that, then the rest of the shit doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's so true. And I know, like saying loving yourself sounds so cliche.
I know.
Um, I say I'm definitely dipping into it much more. I have my moments, my soul moments and my ego moments, right? You're going to talk about this when we talk about your metaphor, but you'll talk about it differently. You'll talk it with your language. But yeah, those soul moments where I'm really digging myself and I love myself, I can be so much more slippery with other people. It really doesn't matter what they say, because it's just a reflection of their own world and
Yep.
their own reality and their own perception of what I am or who I am. There's what, 7 billion people in the world. So there's 7 billion different versions of Caralyn. And then my version, and my version changes every fucking second. So I don't even know sometimes who I'm going to be in this moment. Right. So
Well, and you're human. That's what
I'm
makes
human,
you
right?
human.
Like, so I am enjoying learning to love myself more and just dipping into, because you just then love other people more. It doesn't, even if they're saying something that is seemingly rude against you or whatever else, it really is just like, well, okay. Okay. And
It's
that's
never
the first
about
time
us.
I've
Yeah.
never been able to do that before in my life. Everything's was always an offense. So it's
Right.
nice
Well, we
to
take
come
things
into that.
personally. That's part of our journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
another question. If you could instantly become an expert in one skill, what would it be?
Well, right now I would say video editing and tech and all of that stuff, as I'm trying to muddle through. I do
Which is a
enjoy
great way.
learning,
I think it's a great place to say, if anyone wants to come on board and grow with us,
right?
there is a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
potential.
We need some tech. We need some tech help. Uh, I do love learning. I have ADD, which was a diagnosis in my late 50s, and an understanding of where that frustration stems from has been helpful. But I do get frustrated with some of those tech things.
Yeah.
So to be an expert in that, yeah, whatever.
What I appreciate about you, though, because I've noticed this, like, you like to learn, but you're pretty like a general learner. You're learning a lot about a lot of different things, and I love that about you, because I'm not a general learner. I'm a specialist. There's one thing that I love. There's one thing that I like to study, and everything else can just go to hell in a handbag. I don't really care. And if I need a break from it, I'm outside working. Like, I'm either like cutting the lawn or picking up leaves or watering my flowers or something. So I love that about you. I love that. Yeah, you're generalist. Okay. 2 more questions really quickly. What is your favorite childhood memory?
Oh shit. I only have 8 childhood memories and they're all sucky.
Just
I blocked a lot of that stuff out. I don't have one. Honestly, my childhood kind of sucked. And favorite childhood
well,
memory.
let's do this. I'd like to
Mm,
revisit it, like with when we film next week. Why don't you spend the weekend and just do some art? Well, you're going to have all your weekend with your art crawl. But you know
yes.
what? I bet you, I'm going to cry when I say this because there's something's come through me right now. But I bet as you stand back, I don't know why I'm freaking crying. Okay, I'm gonna try
I'm
to
gonna
do
remember
it.
something new. Oh my God, I would
There's
love
gonna be
to.
something you're gonna watch your dad have some sort of interaction with somebody, and you're just gonna let your mind go for a second because you know now you know that you've got the job to think of a nice childhood memory. And I bet you any money something will come back. Jot it down. Just jot it down, and then I'm going to revisit it next week because I bet you have something that you have just chosen not to
I
remember
hope
that
so,
can
because
come back.
I know that there's some really good nuggets in my childhood. I know I had some happy, fun, loving times,
Yeah.
and I tried really hard at the place. I've tried in therapy. I've tried through hypnotherapy, and as of yet, and I'm still hopeful. I haven't had. I don't know it, but I know it's in there. I know there are some good ones in there. So, okay, we'll set that intention.
Well, and
And
partly it's actually thinking about fun childhood
yes,
memories. I mean, there's been a
yes,
lot of thinking of traumatic things, and you get what you focus on. So
yep,
let's
yes.
yeah,
Okay,
it's gonna be great. I'm
that'll be
gonna
the
stick to
theme.
that.
I'm gonna have conversations with people at the art crawl about fun. What's their best childhood memories? I'm gonna ask other people and
Yeah.
have 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 that be the intention.
Well, you know
And I'll
what,
let you
too?
know.
Even when I look at your art behind you, I'm not up close to it, but it looks very playful, right? And there is, I'm not saying it's childlike, but there's there's a lightness about it. And I think that,
Yes.
and that's what, for many people, especially as adults, I think art is really important because it brings you back to those moments of childhood and presence and all of that, right? So that's a perfect question to ask people. And then you're going to be generating that energy even within your home, right? Your studio that you're in right now. Like
Yes. Thank you,
all of that.
Carolyn.
Yeah, that's going to think. I'm looking forward to the chat next week. Something's going to come up and it's going to blow your mind, and you're going to be like, wow, even if it's just one, right? Just one
Oh,
memory
I would
when
take
you
just
had
one. I would take a
none.
snippet. I would take a snippet right now.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
you know what I did? One thing, okay, this now we're going to talk about me for a second. My aunt had dementia for the last 2 years. She just passed away this February in 2023. And one of my favorite things to do with my aunt, and I hope this does, and this is going to disrespect my dad a bit, but she always thought she was my dad's sister, and she was the older
Okay.
sister. And she kind of had thought that, my sister and I didn't have great childhoods. And when we go visit my dad, it wasn't great. I don't know what she had made up in her mind, and there were things that were not nice. And my sister's younger, and once I was old enough to not be around, my sister experienced some things that um I probably inadvertently I was protecting her from, because then I wasn't there. But all that to say, one of the best things I got to do with my aunt was talk about all the wonderful memories that I had with my dad and my
Mm.
stepmom and my half brother. And that was really nice because she didn't think there were any fun things. And it was so fun to really think what were all the fun things that my dad did, because my dad wasn't perfect,
And
and
none of us are.
none of
Yeah.
us are, right? But when, especially as an adult, I can look back in fondness and memory of all the things that because Maya Angelou said, we basically do our best, right? Did Maya Angelou say that? You do your best, and then you do better. Maybe there's an author. There's another author Oprah likes it. Anyway, doesn't matter. And I know that at that moment, we're at any moment, we all really are doing our best, even if it's fucking up like really, really
Yeah.
terribly, right? And my dad did his best any moment with my sister and my brother and I. And so there were so many fun things that we got to go through. Like I lived with predominantly with my mom, but my dad taught me how to drive. I got my period at my dad's house for the first time. Yeah, we drove the back roads in a standard. The day that I went to get my license with my mom, the car broke down, and the next day I went to my dad's in a small town, and he had a different standard than my mom, and I had to like figure out how to drive it, and then I got to do the drive. Like there's so many things that my dad for some reason got to experience, and then I got to share with my aunt, and it really, I think, in her dementia helped her perhaps make some peace, but I also got to just send that energy of love out sorry, this is all
Mhm.
about me now. And anyway, I look forward to hearing about what you come up with, because there's going to be something. There's going to be
Yeah, I
something.
have some good ones as a teenager for sure. I do have memories of that. I mean, prior to about 11 years of age, though, that's where I don't have any. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll let you know what comes up.
Okay, one final question. We talked about who is your celebrity crush last time, and you mentioned a male, but let's do female, because there's amazing female actresses. So who is your favorite? Okay, let's just say, who's your favorite female actor, actress,
Actor. Oh my
well,
gosh.
female actor. I think they called actors now. So
I have a lot. Right. Recently, I've been thinking a lot about Gwyneth Paltrow, and what has inspired me most about her isn't about her acting as much as her breakup with Chris Martin, father of her two children, and how she handled that then and how she continues to navigate that. Divorce is a huge shitstorm. And the way that she's done it, she's phrased it as conscious uncoupling. And they were able to do that in a way that was not nearly as detrimental. I mean, it's upsetting for children regardless of how great it's done. They've done it so well. And a marriage ending doesn't have to be a failure. It's the end of an era, and it's the beginning of something else. So for those reasons, right now and she happens to be an actor. So I would say her.
that. I really love that. I think it
Yeah.
feels like as time has gone on, people are understanding how to do things better. And divorce back in the 70s and 80s, when 70s was my parents got divorced. Like it seemed to be like, you needed to have some sort of, like, you have to have a fight or whatever else. But when I'm seeing former husbands and wives supporting one another in a really conscious way, like you say, it is such a delight to know that that's happening, and that we're doing better as we go along. We're doing better as a society, and people are consciously making that effort. And so that's fantastic
for everybody, the children especially, and to genuinely, with love, embracing the new partners. Right. And you got to be cool with yourself to be able to do that. So I think she's a huge inspiration, and she's led the way for a lot of people to follow.
And also, can I say, she's a great entrepreneur? Holy shit. Like, she's done
she's done so well.
Actress, entrepreneur.
Yes.
Mom,
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah. She's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's nice chatting with you today. We got to roll off. I think this is long again, but we'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah. All right. Have an awesome day. Great mental health.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.